After the Fact, a podcast by Pew, keeps it real with data-driven insights on today's big issues. No spin, just facts, mixed with stories from experts, policymakers, and people making a difference. Whether you're into the research or the personal stories behind it, we've got you covered. So what are you waiting for? Listen to After the Fact wherever you get your podcasts.
Today on CityCast DC. One of my favorite things about spring in DC is that I can finally whip around town in an e-bike again. They're speedy and they're fun, and they get me places that the metro and bus don't always serve. So in light of my love of e-bikes and the weather finally warming up, we're re-upping this episode from last spring. CityCast producer Ash Durbin systematically tested out 4 different e-bike brands: Capital Bikeshare, Lime, Spin, and Vio, and he has some strong opinions about which ones are actually worth the price. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. I'm Senior Executive Producer Priyanka Tilve, and here's what DC is talking about. Ash, you went around and tried every single e-bike brand in the city. That seems like a feat. How long did that take, and why did you want to do this in the first place?
Honestly, I thought it would have taken much longer, but the fact that they're everywhere now made it pretty easy. But I wanted to do this because in my past life, when I was working at restaurants and stuff, I had this very DC specific situation in that my work was just barely not accessible by metro. It was in one of those weird zones where it wasn't that far from my house, but metro would have taken an hour. And like walking would have taken an hour too.
Right. Like one of those situations where like if you're close to the green line, but your job's off the red or vice versa, it's just impossible to get where you need to go.
Exactly. And I think DC's a pretty good bikeable city. And so it kind of made it where I was like, okay, either I'm taking the bus, which is nice, but somewhat unreliable when you have to be somewhere on time.
Totally.
Stuff like that. And then, going early and you just kind of want the fastest possible route. And if biking takes, 20 minutes, then electric biking takes 10 minutes.
Yeah. Can you break that down for people actually? Like for people who aren't familiar with what e-bikes are like, how is an e-bike different from a regular bike? What's the experience like?
So generally, it's like riding a normal bike, except the pedals are just like super powered.
Yeah.
So you pedal and it feels like you have the strongest legs in America and you're just going 20 miles an hour, just flying. If you're going to work especially and you don't want to get to work like super sweaty from pumping up hills, then the e-bikes are perfect because honestly, it takes like no effort most of the time.
That's a great point. I feel like in my experience with e-bikes, the thing that takes the most effort is finding one that works. Like there have been times that I've gone to use the Capital Bikeshare e-bikes and tried like 4 or 5 different stands. Like I'm not talking 4 or 5 different bikes,
Sure.
but 4 or 5 different stands entirely and not been able to find a bike that works. Was your experience better?
I've been riding these bikes around for years now. And when I was doing this scientific study,
So scientific.
the control has to be for every brand that like some of them are going to be messed up because they're just sitting out in public. So a lot of them are messed up for sure. But we tried to do this with the assumption that when you find one that's working, which is the best.
Okay, so how do you want to do this? How did you set up your rating system? What are we judging these bikes on?
We have 5 categories and I rated each out of 5.
Okay.
So we have the ease of the use of the app. We have the ease of the use of the bike. So how usable is the bike? How well is it made? How fast does it go? How heavy is it? Which I think is big, especially if you're going up hills and stuff. Then we have the cost of use. And then how accessible are they? How easy is it to find one? And then my last category was fun, which, yeah, it was not a category until I started like seeing some stark differences in how fun they are. And I think a big plus of these things are like, they're really fun.
They are really fun. So you tried the Lime bikes, right? So those are like the ones that are owned by Uber. They're lime green and they're basically on every corner for you to either walk up to or trip over. What was your experience with Lime?
I give the app a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Honestly, and this is true for all of them, but you don't have to lock it to a specific place, but you have to take a picture at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And that can be kind of glitchy. So I took 1 point off for that. And I have been charged in the past for like not locking correctly and not taking like a correct picture. So
That's obnoxious.
Yeah, so definitely losing a point for that. But besides that, it's an app and it works.
What about like in terms of finding the bikes? The app is good for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of these apps have a map, and sometimes you'll see one that you want. You'll walk up to it and you'll be like, oh, actually, this doesn't have pedals or something, like something, something like that. So, something to keep in mind, but that's not the app's fault. That's just the name of the game at the end of the day.
Okay, yeah. So then speaking of the bike itself, how easy is it to use? How much do you feel like you're flying?
These ones I like a lot. I gave them a 4 out of 5. They feel very light, which is good. I will say for all of these electric bikes, the like party line from all of the bike apps is like they go 15 miles an hour. But in riding all of them, I don't know if it's like a placebo of the bike being lighter, but this one feels pretty fast in the grand scheme for me. So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Love that. Okay. What about cost?
They cost 41 cents per minute. And the way I did cost on this, I should say, is that I kind of did like someone who is riding kind of semi-frequently. I did, if you paid for a year's membership, which for Lime is $6 a month, so 72 annual. That cuts out the $1 unlock fee.
Oh, okay. It's not unlimited rides. Okay.
It's not unlimited at all. It just makes it like slightly cheaper. So for Lime, 500 minutes at 41 cents per minute plus $72 annual fee is $277. So I put that at a 3 out of 5. It's fine.
I mean, that's cheaper than a lot of other forms of transportation would cost you for a year. So,
Totally.
Yeah. What about accessibility?
Okay. For finding the numbers, DDOT has numbers on them. So we're going to take their word as gospel, I guess. And their word is that there are 3,025 Lime e-bikes across the DMV. Spoiler alert for the rest of them, but that's the most.
Ah, okay.
The feeling that they're everywhere is because
they are everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of e-bikes in the DMV. So 5 out of 5 for accessibility because they're everywhere.
That is awesome. Okay. Last category then is fun. What metric are you using for this, Ash?
This is the Ash scale of fun. It kind of ties into the usability. I think, like I said, a lighter bike, you feel like you're flying. And these ones, light, you're flying. You don't have to pedal too hard. But these ones especially, I feel like you really feel like you can like break the sound barrier of them only wanting you to go 15 miles an hour. And like sometimes you're like, I'm going 30 miles an hour right now on these. And I love them. They have little bells and, I like being annoying and just ringing the bells and stuff. And I don't know. They're fun. I give these a 4 out of 5 for fun.
Just for scale, it's important that we make this as scientific as possible for the listeners. What is a 1 on the Ash scale of fun and what is a 5 on the Ash scale of fun, like in life?
I think fun is as much excitement with as little work possible.
Okay.
So I think that will lend itself good to this study, in that the most fun ones are the ones where you feel like you're flying, but you're not working at all. It'll become clear as we go on here. There's some X factors in some of them too that kind of make them fun, but I don't want to spoil them yet.
This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Let us hop to Capital Bikeshare. You've already explained the system, so maybe we can just like run through the numbers for these. So Capital Bikeshare /Lyft, app usage,
I gave this one a 4 out of 5 as well. It's the same deal as Lime. This was going to be a 4.5 out of 5, but I took off 0.5 just because it was unclear on the app to me how to end my ride, which could just be me being a dummy, but it did take me 2 minutes. That's 2 minutes that you're paying for. And sometimes it kind of feels like they're doing that on purpose a little bit.
Totally. I've struggled with that with the Lyft ones too.
If you do try these, there's nothing on the app, which is different than all of them, that like you press stop. You just have to plug the lock back into it, and that's how you close it.
Cool. Also, with these, like you get charged an extra amount if you leave it somewhere random, as opposed to if you bring it back to the Capital Bikeshare dock. That was not clear to me before I got the charge, basically.
Right. Yeah. You save a fee if you park it at the docks. So that is also slightly unclear, but I don't want to take too much off because like you just have to read.
Okay, knocking me for not reading, whatever.
Well, I didn't read either, to be fair.
Okay, bike usage.
Okay, so they have the older model, which are the black ones, and then they have the new ones. So I just went off the new ones, assuming they'll phase out the old ones. So these are the new gray ones. I gave them a 3.5 out of 5 for usability. They were well made, but they felt so heavy. And I don't know, I'm a big guy, and even me getting on this, I was like, whoa, like a couple moments where I was like, if you like, turn a little too quick, you felt like the bike could have come down on you. And then another big thing with that is the hills. And when they're heavy, you don't want to be working at all when you're on an e-bike. And so when you go up a hill and you feel the little bit of, fire in your legs, to me, that's losing points. So 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, you shouldn't be feeling any sort of effort when
no
you're on
work
an e-bike.
whatsoever.
Never.
Nothing.
No. Okay. Cost?
So this is where they really win us back because they're the best price and it's not even close. So they get a 5 out of 5. They have a $95 annual fee, which is slightly higher, but their price per minute is way lower. It's only 15 cents a minute.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
So 500 minutes at 15 cents a minute plus 95 annual is $170, which is fully more than $100 cheaper.
Okay, next up, accessibility. What do you got?
So a little bit of a disclaimer, these are not concluded on the DDOT website. So I had to do some kind of like investigative research to really find out how many there are there. What I found, and if a listener knows more about this and can correct me, please do. But what I found is there's 1,500 of the old ones and 700 new ones. And that's from a Washington Post article from last year. So my quick math is 2,200 e-bikes, which is good.
Yeah.
There's 762 stations. It's less than Lime. So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, fair. But I mean, I guess fairly accessible in that they make a point of putting these Capital Bikeshare docks near metro stations, near like heavily used bus stations, places where people are potentially going to need to bike to and from.
And I was doing this from Tacoma Park, like technically in Maryland, and there was like 3 stations around me. So they're everywhere.
Okay, most exciting category, fun.
A little bit lower for me, 3 out of 5. Because they're so heavy, they feel a lot slower. I did not feel like I was zooming on these. I felt like I was working a little bit. I think they're putting more effort into making them sustainable and that they'll like be around for a while. And I think because of that, they're a little heavier, a little bit more chunky. And I wasn't like zooming around corners, doing Tokyo drift style on these ones.
All right. Next up is the spin bikes. What do those look like? I don't even know if I've seen those very much.
Spin are the orange ones. These ones are interesting. Not to skip ahead in the category, you haven't seen that many of them because there's not that many of them.
Okay.
There's only 720 of them.
That's like nothing.
That's like nothing, especially in what we've seen so far. So that, just to go to how many there are, I gave them a 2 out of 5. But back to the app, it's 4 out of 5. Not really much to say. It's the same deal where you unlock it with your phone and then you can take a picture when you park.
Okay, what about bike usage when you can actually find one?
I gave it a 4 out of 5. Part of me felt like these ones were the best made. They felt mechanically really good. I think what really wowed me about how they were made is that they have this cute little basket on the front and it's somehow not connected to the front wheel. So you'll turn the handlebars, but the basket stays completely centered. So I guess it's connected to the main frame, which was like felt really futuristic and cool.
I guess it's also nice because that means it doesn't bounce around like with the other 2 e-bikes. Sometimes I worry that whatever content I've put in the basket is going to fly out.
I've definitely had a sandwich fly out of the basket before and, lost my lunch
Tragedy.
on a bike before. So yeah, that's a huge plus now that we talk about it. And it's just cool too. It just looks cool. But they were a little bit heavy. I think, again, we're finding like the ones that are maybe like a little bit of a better build lose something in heaviness. So 4 out of 5 for usability.
Cool. What about cost?
So these ones are the most expensive.
Really? There are so few of them and they're the most expensive. Yikes.
I kind of justified it to myself in that they are nice. So maybe you're paying for a slightly, cooler, nicer bike. But again, it's $6 a month. So $72 annually. And then where it becomes more expensive is it's 45 cents a minute. So 500 minutes at 45 cents plus 72. Annual fee is $297.
All right. Not a lot more than the Uber one, but still more. Yeah. Which is rough if you can't find them in the first place to ride.
Totally.
So what was that score then?
2 out of 5.
And then fun. What did you rate it on fun?
I gave these a 4 out of 5 because of the handlebar thing. I loved that. It wasn't super fast, but it really felt like you could like zoom around corners because it's well made. The more high tech looking, the more you feel like you're like in Blade Runner or something. I feel like if you told me when I was a kid, there's going to be like e-bikes that you can open with an app around DC when you're an adult, I would be like, what?
Really? I was really gunning for the flying cars, but I'm glad that...
But I would take it,
Yeah.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Okay, well, speaking of futuristic looking e-bikes, the VO ones, which I feel like are newer, they look the funkiest to me. Like they're kind of short.
Yep.
They're like black and like teal, I guess. What was your experience like with those?
So this was my sleeper, one of my faves. I had never ridden one before. I too kind of saw them around and like, what's the deal with this one? And they kind of surprised me in a couple ways. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on the app.
Okay.
Just because it was the usual things, but I just literally downloaded the app, opened it, and started riding.
Uh-huh.
And like when I closed it out, I didn't have any questions. Like it was all very clear. It was easy to find one. So I just felt like because it was like download and go, I gave it an extra 0.5 just because it was
that's awesome.
easy. So 4.5 out of 5. And I think we'll find throughout the VO that they do have this kind of like high-tech, weird.
Yeah, they just look like futuristic. They have a vibe to them.
Totally.
Okay, what about the bike usage?
5 out of 5.
Wow.
5 out of 5. So this one almost feels like cheating. So they have the pedals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So technically it's a bike.
Technically it's a bike.
You sit as if it's like one of those grocery store trolleys. So it's like you're sitting down.
Oh, it's like a chair.
It's like a scooter with pedals.
It feels like ATV style seating.
ATV style, scooter style, like you're sitting there and the pedals are there, but you do not need to use the pedals in my experience. It has a throttle. So if anything, it's like a scooter with pedals, but because it has pedals, it counts as a bike.
Oh my God.
They've really hacked the system on this whole rating thing. The other ones have pedals and, if you're going up a hill and kind of maybe the battery's going, you're going to have to, you push. But with this one, it's like, it's a throttle.
It just goes.
It just
goes.
Oh
my God.
So you don't even have
So
to worry
sneaky.
about something like going wrong and you have to pedal it up a hill. It's like, it's throttle, baby.
It's a motorcycle masquerading as a bike.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow.
I loved that. Yeah, the
VO
usability was
Tricksters.
great. Yeah, VO Tricksters, 5 out of 5.
Okay, well, that sounds like it's got to be expensive though.
Yeah.
How are we doing on cost?
So this one was second most expensive. So just barely cheaper than Spin. Again, $6 a month for the annual fee, so $72 annually. And then 44 cents a minute, so 1 cent less than Spin. So 500 minutes, 44 plus 72 annual is 292.
Okay, you know what? I think that sounds worth it to me, but
It's totally worth it.
yeah. So what rating do you give that?
2.5.
Yeah, that makes sense. Accessibility? It does feel like these are everywhere.
It does. Because they're new, I kind of assumed there would be maybe less of them. They're not the most common in the area for sure. I give them a 3 out of 5. According to DDOT, they have 1,770 e-bikes in DC.
Yeah. Okay. What about fun? You sound like you had fun.
5 out of 5. It feels like riding a motorcycle. And then the way you're seated too is kind of like the lowrider motorcycle. Like you're on a big highway in the desert, like kind of leaning back. Throttle, no work whatsoever. Can really like zoom around a corner. And then kind of an X factor for this one, and going back to like the sci-fi thing, most of them, when you open the app and like unlock a bike, it'll do like a bling or like, you know, some little noise.
What was that?
A bling. But this one has like a cool robot voice talking to you.
Oh.
It's like, welcome to VO.
Wow, yeah.
So that was cool. I don't know. I liked it. Adds to the fun for me. If it's like making you feel like you're in
2055
or something, that ups the fun for me.
For sure.
And then if you don't have to do any work, that's awesome. So 5 out of 5 for fun.
Yeah, love it. Okay. Well, our producer Julia has tallied up the numbers, come up with some averages. And Ash's least favorite e-bike was the Spin bikes, the orange ones.
Yep.
Expensive, not too many of them.
Yep.
This checks out. Next up was Capital Bikeshare Lift. They had an average of 3.9 to Spin's 3.2. And then after this, we're like, you know, really splitting hairs because Lime had an average score of 4 and VO had an average score of 4.1. But based on what you described, I think I would have expected our rankings to turn out that way.
Yes. You have to ask yourself what you want for these too. Like if you're kind of like going to rely on this to go to work and stuff, it's like, go ahead and get that Capital Bikeshare membership. Like it's saving you $100.
For sure.
But if you're just like want a fun way to get around and like go to a bar, like go, you know, like bike around the mall or whatever, that's when you maybe get into the territory where like, let's do Lime or VO.
What about you personally? You said you use e-bikes pretty regularly. Are you going to switch over to VO now, or what do you think?
Honestly, the fun part about me doing this is now I just have every app on my phone.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest takeaway for my personal use is like, I'm going to be using VO.
Yeah.
Because it's just so fun. If I find myself in a place where I need to bike around a lot, I will be using Capital Bikeshare. I kind of did some math that I've been avoiding for a long time on how much I spent on Lime.
No.
Being a heavy user.
Sorry for making you do that.
Yeah. And thinking about when it would be worth it to buy my own e-bike and all this stuff. And I personally, when I was doing this heavily over, I would say 25 weeks, so half the weeks of the year, more or less, I would be riding this like twice a day, 4 days a week. I had a 4-day week at work. And when I was really feeling lazy, I would take it both ways to work and home. And so that's, 15 minutes each way, 30 minutes total. 4 days a week, 25 weeks with the membership at Lime ended up being around $1,230 per year. So it's really not ideal.
And that is more or less the price of an e-bike, isn't it?
E-bikes, you can get anywhere from like $800 to like $2,000. And I think my main takeaway is like, if you're going to be like I was, like using this to get to work like almost every day, at least for like the warm months of the year, it's worth it to just buy one for yourself. If you just kind of want to use it for fun, I think that's when that's when they come in.
Makes sense. Ash, thank you for doing this research and your investigative journalism.
Of course.
And yeah, very, very useful. Thanks for being here.
Sweet. Thanks, Bianca.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, bike around town with the CityCast DC banner streaming behind you. And while you're at it, sign up for membership. It's only $8 a month, and it gives you ad-free listening. Sign up at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye!
Limes are used to accent the flavors
Alexa.
of other foods and beverages.
Shut up. Oh my God. Where is she? I didn't even know there was an Alexa down here. Okay. That's crazy. I'm dead. What was I saying?